Hey guys, Revolver here, back with a toplane guide on First Blood. I'm going to discuss 5 topics that are very useful for getting the first kill in top lane, generally in the first 10 minutes or up to level 8. Getting the first kill in top lane requires you to take several factors into consideration to determine whether or not you'll be able to kill your opponent. The first of these factors are your stats from items, runes and masteries. It's very important to be ahead in most cases, obviously depending on the champion you play. But let's say we've got 2 melee AD champions who have a strong level 2 or 3. In terms of items, you generally start boots, rejuvenation pendant, Doran's blade, Doran's shield, crystalline flask or cloth armor. Boots let you escape ganks and dodge skill shots more easily, at the cost of less armor, which is a disadvantage in an all-out melee fight. Rejuvenation pendant gives you increased resistance to harass against champions like Elise, and it also gives you a ward to guard ganks, but you'll be more vulnerable in a bursty fight. Doran's blade is very strong in ranged champions like Kennen, but it doesn't give you any wards, and considering you'll have to push the lane to make use of the sustain it gives you, you'll be very vulnerable to ganks. Doran's shield gives you very valuable stats and a potion, giving you both sustain and armor, but with a lack of burst sustain from pots. In a burst fight you might have to play passive for a while to get your health back, and Doran's shield also doesn't get you any ward. Crystalline Flask is advantageous if you're playing a mana dependent champion like Malphite, Elise or Jax, and you're in need of sustain, a ward and the ability to use your spells without worrying about going Cloth armor will net you plenty of trading potential and all-in potential versus AD champions, or a Doran's blade cannon, but it will either not give you a ward or you'll possibly lack some sustain. Oh, and there's also Red Pot, Elixir of Fortitude, in case you want to go aggressive early on but with a high risk in case you don't get anything out of it. Runes and masteries should be adjusted towards your matchup and the jungler. Runes and masteries make more impact early game, so you shouldn't adjust too much towards their general team comp, unless you're playing a farm lane at top, but that's not what this guide is for. A great example of a good rune and mastery setup, which I unfortunately lacked the footage of, was when I played Kennen vs Ryze mid. I knew Ryze would most certainly beat me at the higher level I got, so I decided to go super aggressive early, as that would be my only shot at winning the lane. I started with a Doran's blade and put 30 points into offense, picking up both attack speed and cooldown reduction, and armor and magic penetration. For runes I had AP and hybrid penetration, and defensive seals and glyphs. Needless to say, I got first blood at level 2, won my lane and won the game. Next up, mechanics. Now I'm not suggesting you should play like doublelift, but there are some basic stuff you should know. In particular as an AD champion, the number of auto attacks you get in can be the difference between getting the kill or dying. Basically, you don't want to interrupt an attack animation, neither by walking nor interrupting it with a spell. Get the attack off, then use the spell. Try to move in front of your target between attacks to gain distance. Also, make use of attack resetting spells, such as Darius W or Wukong's Q. Spells and peak levels are the most important part. Which spells you choose to level up plays a huge role, and knowing when your champion has a peak level in lane 2. The peak level means at which levels your champion are as strongest, or at least stronger than your opponent. Wukong for example is incredibly strong at level 1, since he can harass and auto attack reset with his Q, but his level 2 and 3 are equally strong, because he has both damage with his E and Q, harass with EQW combo, and disengage with W. Wukong 6 is also very strong. Darius peaks at level 2 and 6. At level 2, given he has harassed his opponents with Q and tried to keep his passive stacks up, will now have huge killing potential with an auto attack reset on W plus the slow, and ignite and a stack passive is huge too. His level 6 speaks for itself. Darius has the best burst of any top lane champion at level 6. Other champions are different. Elise for example peaks much later, because she needs levels to sustain her harass because of her high mana cost, and as such, her peak may be somewhere around 6 to 8, where she can unleash after harassing, a full range combo after a stun, and then follow up with a full melee combo, and let Ignite and Spiderlings finish it off. I can go on with this list, but I won't for now, so feel free to message me on Twitter or YouTube, in case you wonder when your main champion peaks in lane. Next up, minions and levels. Minions can be devastating in lane. If you dive in early onto his side of the lane, chances are you'll have both the enemy's melee and ranged minions on you, which equals significant damage. Therefore, it is important to see where the minions are and who will take the most damage. Minions will go on to you if you attack the opposing champion within a certain range of the minions. You can reset minion aggro by walking into a brush, unless the opposing laner has vision of said brush, or if you use a targeted spell or an auto attack in the brush. Levels also play an important role, and there are times when pushing the lane just to get level 2 a minion before your opponent may win you the lane. If you're up against a strong all-in champion like Aatrox, who has a peak at level 2, make sure you add a level 2 before or at the same time as him. This can be done by pushing the minion wave slightly. At level 1, melee minions will go down first, and eventually you'll both be left with 3 ranged minions each. Ranged champions has a huge advantage here, as they can CS at a safe distance and still harass. If both champions are melee, see who your opponent is and which spell he has chosen at level 1. Darius, for example, can use his Q once you go for a last hit, and if you strike back, you'll get minion aggro and probably lose the trade. Finally, junglers. Junglers on both your team and the opposing team can change the outcome of the entire lane. For your own jungler, talk with him or her and make sure you know if or when he or she is coming to your lane. Make sure you harass your opponent prior to this, and don't be afraid to get as low as your opponent if you feel confident that you and your jungler can take him or her down without any of you dying. Don't be afraid to dive early on either, but be wary of which spells your opponent has. If the enemy Shen has 10% HP and is level 3, chances are he's got both a taunt and a shield, which can severely damage the outcome of the dive. Also, try to keep track of which summoner spells and ultimates your opponent has up. Last but not least, determine freehand who's going to tank the turret, and make sure you switch turret aggro before it's too late, or walking outside of turret range and then coming back once your jungler has attacked the opponent top laner. And by the way, look at your opponent's starting items. You'll see if he or she has brought a ward, even if you're not sure where they put it. On to the opposing jungler. In the current patch, 3.10, where junglers get a smiteless first buff and then rush to the other buff into a gank, junglers tend to gank top first, and this gank will usually, and this depends on the jungler, gank your lane somewhere between 3 minutes and 3.5 minutes, give or take. During these timestamps, play extra passive and make sure you have an escape route available in case of a gank. If you know where the enemy jungler is, you can disregard this and play as usual. If you have a ward, I still suggest you at least have a planned escape route, just in case. As for warding, there are 3 main spots where you should ward. If you're playing purple side versus a jungler that tends to start red, like Lee Sin, ward here. Note that junglers like a Moo can start red just to get a gank off at top. If said jungler is a champion who can skip walls to avoid wards, like Jarvan or Shaco, ward here. If you're playing blue side versus any jungler, ward here. If you're not sure, ward here. Make sure the ward covers the timestamp between 3 and 3.5 minutes, preferably without the opposing top lane knowing you did put a ward there, by going to lane a bit early. These 5 factors should be taken into consideration when you're going for first blood. The last tips I have are the following. 1. Use your health potions whenever someone goes all in or whenever the entire potion will take effect. Try to remain at high health in lane. Also, a health potion will often save you from an ignite death early on. 2. Remember your lane stats in champion select. Start planning your lane early. 3. You don't get many kills if you're afraid of taking risks. Thanks for watching. If you've learned something from this video or you've enjoyed watching it, please do me a favor and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Also, check out my Twitter if you have any questions or want to know whenever I have videos coming up. See you all next time.